sometimes. And I will, I don't think I can talk about this without saying that, like as a Christian and a believer in Jesus, he's my, he's who I go to with all my fears, and it's a real source of my strength. And so, a lot of times when I'm having a hard time, I'll, bring that to the Lord in prayer, and all right, God, I'm gonna, step out in faith and do this, and and he helps me. Well, there's the missus.
Hold on. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Derek, man. That's at the foundation, right? So, Nisatch, you know Derek, right? And this is.
Man, we met at the Saturday clearing out the yard.
Yeah.
Here's my wife.
How are you?
Poke your head in here.
Hey, Lisa.
Remember my wife too, Lisa?
Mm-hmm. How are you?
Yeah, no doubt. I'll give props.
No,
props.
That's you're really quiet. Barely.
Oh, barely. Hold on.
Yeah, you're not. I think you got the mic plugged in there. I actually gave her a microphone. Look at that. Me and my podcasting. It should be. You got to put it up out of your mouth, though, babe.
It's pretty close.
Like actually hold. Like see where mine is? Like it's right here.
Is that close?
Yeah. It's got to be like right there.
Oh gosh, I can probably plug in my snowball, can't I?
What's a snowball? Is that a microphone?
Yeah, I'm gonna. I'll show it to you real quick.
Well, the good news is I logged in, but I only have 4% of my battery, and so it's going to die on me here soon.
Uh-oh. What do you think of that?
Oh, that's an impressive microphone.
Oh wow, look at that thing.
I know. My son
like a
gave it to
snowball
me for Christmas.
That's awesome. So you're gonna start podcasting, right? So Dad, we're talking about fears. Like that's kind of like a fear for you, right? The podcasting thing, a little bit.
Everything is a fear. What are you talking about? But it's funny, Derek. I just came from a 12-step meeting, so in that vernacular, we do higher power.
Wow.
That way it's inclusive of everybody's different spirituality places, whether it be, a God or a whatever. Anyway, and that's what we talk about all the time is, first of all, how to let go of the control of things you can't control, which feeds into productivity, right?
Yeah.
And then also, distinguishing between what you can control for your own day and what is outside of your responsibility. And most of us, I think, grow up having, a lot of us do, I should say, having these expectations of ourselves that aren't really based in reality or the way it should be or how it really can work well for a person. So, my journey has always been to separate the wheat from the chaff when it comes to what I do try to get accomplished in a day, because some of it's outside of my control as far as whether I will actually get that accomplished. You have to get really clear about that, So,
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, focusing on things that are outside of your control is definitely probably what the most counterproductive habit that we can all participate in, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just kind of like just some success stories. Derek and I started off just talking about success stories and what are different ways that you guys examples have you've overcome fears in the past and it's allowed you to move your career, your life forward and be more productive. You have any examples, Deb?
For success stories, I guess for me the biggest thing was this concept of being a people pleaser. So therefore, doing what was somebody else's agenda, maybe what other people wanted to see me accomplish, or my interpretation of that. And so, just this whole last year has been this journey of redefining what I want my business to look like. I know, Nick, we've talked about that in Catalyst Group.
Right.
How we're trying to make a better life for ourselves with both, and Nisatch with, this whole, with the family balance thing. And even though I don't have kids anymore, I now have adult kids in my life, being parents who are falling apart. So it's like, 3-year-olds in 70-year-old full grown bodies. It's kind of interesting, but,
I bet.
But anyway, you know, just this idea for me has been to get really clear on when I am not following my own agenda on a daily basis. There was a specific, oh, I know what it was. Just this whole last month has been this purging of clients, and it's been quite an ordeal, but a happy ordeal. But each day I have to really make sure that that stays on my active agenda, and it's not one I can accomplish every day. I mean, I can't get it finished in a day. It's an ongoing thing.
Now,
So
I'm intrigued by that. Tell me a little bit more about the purging of clients. I think I have a little bit of background, but I mean, it's basically you're trying to work with clients that are better suited for you long term. Is that
right?
Is that what the deal is?
That's
okay.
One thing. Yep. And the other thing is to open up space so that I can grow into different ways of doing the same work I've been doing for years. I've been doing this work all along of helping people have a better financial, a better grasp on their finances, a better understanding of them, a better reality as far as understanding why they're doing or not doing certain things, because I feel that most of the time it's rooted in fear and things like that. So I've constantly beat myself over the head or my head against the wall with trying to get people to do things that wasn't going to ever work because it wasn't aligned with how they operate. So now I want to get to know people and find out what makes them tick, and then I can serve them. I can actually help them realize those dreams of having a safe, secure financial life that is the underpinning of everything that really matters. You know, the finances are the part you have to do, and they're part of who you are, but you're not made up, you know, you're not money. Right. Money is a representation of a lifestyle or what's important to you, you know?
So you're purging the clients that aren't aligned with your, like,
who don't want to do the work, really, who don't want to do the work, frankly, you know, or aren't ready. Maybe. That
was kind of a scary thing for you.
Gosh, of course. It's like, but it's like this exhilarating scariness. And I found something came about that allowed me to realize that I could purge them and at the same time still continue to serve them in some way, because a lot of them matter a lot to me, you know. Like, I don't want to just get rid of them, but I also don't want to have them as a noose around my neck anymore either. And it was probably I needed a clean slate. Maybe that's a little bit of it, you know. Because you operate with people in your life, so retraining somebody who's already in your life to operate with you differently than you always have, that's kind of hard. It's like trying to get your family to see that you're a different person or that you want to be different in the family or something. You know what I mean?
Definitely a scary thing. They're probably long-term clients too, right?
Oh yeah, some of them I've been with for close to 30 years.
Oh, that's crazy. Oh, that talk about overcoming fear. But like, your vision though is to be more productive with your business, right? So you had to take that chance.
And also to what's really cool about what I want to do is I'm not really leaving the business of being a CPA. I'm expanding the opportunities for the people I serve to work with me in a new and different way, and then get the work I had to do for them that I didn't enjoy, get that over to somebody else. You know, it kind of makes me think, Nick, about when we were talking about when to bring in the right technology support. So I'm just bringing in the right kind of support, like the right technology people, but in the field I'm in.
Right.
So it's kind of, it's kind of like, it's sort of, it's just like, I don't know, it's rebuilding the engine or changing the color on the paint job or something. It's just, it's still, what it is. It's just, what I'm excited about is that I'm going to hopefully help people start to do more things that they should have been doing all along, like wills and advanced directives and insurance and different things that people all need to have and very rarely have in place in a very, in a good, organized, productive fashion. So see what you do and what I do, they kind of, the productivity is at the heart of a lot of what I'm talking about. Right.
Sure. And I just want to welcome Neil real quick. Neil jumped on.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
How's it going?
Hi, Neil.
This is Debbie, and
Thanks for having me. I apologize for being a little late, Nick. I was racing to get here.
Dude, no worries. We just got back from the same Tampa Bay Business Owners event. We were there. I think it started like at 5 and got over around 8:30 or something. So, Neil, I appreciate you, man. You are just like you make it all happen, man. Like, I don't know how you do it. So, and then not to cut you off, Debbie, I apologize.
Oh no, no problem.
The background on Neil. Neil's really been instrumental in the launch of my podcast. He's been coaching me and giving me all kinds of just awesome advice and just strategies that he's learned along the way and failures and stuff. And you know, when it comes to fear, like putting myself out there out of my comfort zone, I got the Periscope idea from you. I got the Blab idea from you, the Parablab idea from you, right? This is kind of like to put myself out there in front of like, I don't know how many, and maybe you can explain something because since this is like my first Blab, I see that there's people that says 30 and then there's like the little I that says 7. What's up with that?
Normally it just means that there's 30 people that are engaged in the entirety. They can watch it, and 7 of them are active in your top window, those dots up the top there, the pictures of us. Are actively engaged with the camera on and ready to talk. But yeah, thanks for having me brief. I didn't mean to interrupt the conversation. I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, man. Well, Neil and I had a coaching session a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week or something, where, yeah, we got all up into fear, man. Like one of those different things that we fear, and how is it holding us back from being, you know, productive in our business and moving forward and stuff. So Derek talked a little bit about his experience in the military and how it kind of gets you thinking about, you know, completing the checklist and following orders and stuff, and how that all relates to. Is there a difference between effectiveness and productivity, right? Like I define productivity as effectiveness versus just efficiency and doing things faster, because you can be doing all the wrong things fast and not necessarily being productive. So, so what's on your mind tonight, Neil, man? I'm sorry I was late. I missed a little bit of the conversation, but I wanted to just share, if I didn't get anything else in before I left today, was for those of you guys that are actually tuning into this Blab, I appreciate you showing up. He is an incredible productivity person. I joke around. He laughs when I say this, but some of his simplest tips are the ones that work to get me going so that I could begin to take on some of the heavier lifting, because I have, I'm an entrepreneur, I have a business, and I have a podcast, and I'm also putting on a podcast conference. So, I have a lot going on. He knows my world. It spins around between the film and movie world and the podcast world. And so I of all people need to be more productive and more efficient, like you said. And something as simple as making my bed each morning, which he said in the video that we made, make your bed, and it's a quick win in the morning. At least you got that done. I took it as, it's funny, most people probably would have took it as a joke. I started doing it, and I said, my God, it's true. As soon as I did that, I felt like my room was all tidy and I'm ready to go do more. And I started also applying stuff like when you said, don't make a list, tackle the top 2 or 3 things you're really going to get done today, because lists just make you feel unaccomplished, in the sense of you keep adding to the list and you're never going to finish it. That's what I was doing. I'd cross off 3 things and add 4 things. And so it never felt like I was moving. And what I've put into place, even just in the week that we've been in the new year, is I don't even make a list anymore on my desk. I don't even want to see it. I just try and tackle more on my calendar the things that are urgent and need to get done to allow other things to flow smoothly. And because I do sort of divide my world between creative and corporate world, I've really put into place scheduling my time better, and really, really devoting 100% to whatever I scheduled, so that I don't put any of the distraction in the way, shut down all my social media, and really be present. So that's really all I wanted to add. Those were the tips that I got from Nick just in the short time we've been working together on his podcast, that I've applied as a friend. And that now I'm like, oh my God, this is simple little baby changes got me an hour or 2 back per day for my new daughter and my life. And just excited, man, that your show is finally out there. It's funny, when you left the meeting, I was bragging about your show for the next 30 minutes with people. Oh, thanks, man.
You talked to that young man. You met a young man in the restroom, and then he ended up coming to me, telling me how great you were.
That was a really,
He told me, I know you work with Nick, and I need you to work with me. And I was like, listen, first guy you need to talk to is Nick.
I got to stop meeting people in the restroom.
Really? In the restroom, and then they meet me and they're telling me how great you are in the restroom. That was a little weird.
That was a very, that statement didn't really add up too well. But hey, we got to do what we got to do. But you talked about like the to-do list thing. Maybe we got to go into that because Nasat, she lost power and you took her spot there.
Oh, sorry.
No. She's all good. But you know, she's actually mentored me when it comes to the list thing. Because when you talk about fears, right? I kind of have a fear of giving up my list a little bit. I mean, and she is like the poster child when it comes to don't make a list, just put it on your calendar. Like she puts everything on the calendar. Like she's always sending me these crazy meeting notices. Like one yesterday was to actually put my son's bed together. You know, she like sent me a meeting notice to do it like at 9 o'clock or something last night. Like move the bed from one room to the other and put it together. That was like a meeting notice. So she's like just all about if it's important, put it on your calendar. And I'm like, man, like, do I really want to do that? Like, do I really want to commit to all these things that I say? You know, I kind of someday maybe might want to do on my list. I really want to commit to it. But it's true. Like if you don't put it on your calendar, then do you really even care? That's what it comes
one thing I wanted to add was maybe you guys can chime in, is when you work when your mind is in, like my case, I'm a creative person. So by definition, creative people don't like to work in boxes. We don't like checklists. We don't like to be put in any kind of organized form, right? We want to be creative, smooth, 1 till 3 in the morning. Don't interrupt my flow. I'm water, right? And then in my world, I work with a lot of corporate clients where they work with charts and numbers and they want everything to be measurable. And I got to work in this little, directive that they have. And one thing about being productive in that space that I live in, which is how do I make them more fluid, but at the same time, how do I make myself more organized so we can even communicate? And I think that's what, when I think of productivity, I don't think just getting things done or making lists or what tasks do I have. We need to increase our productivity in communicating with each other, like being productive by being able to communicate to each other so that we can both be productive now because we're both speaking the same language. So in a way, it may not sound like a productive thing because it's not a task driven, but to me, it removes the barrier that's creating the list to begin with. So if we can talk better, all of a sudden we're not making lists. We're just working together on stuff and knocking stuff out and getting it done instead of assigning to one another because we're talking in different worlds, creative versus corporate. So that's kind of been how I applied it, just even meeting just Nick and just going, wait a minute, we can take productivity out of just task driven. We can actually be more productive in the way we communicate so we don't make lists. And so we don't have to do so much. You do, I do, we do, because we're being productive. So that's kind of how I've been applying it. I'm not sure about you two in the military. I'm sure it's different because I worked in the police department. It was very paramilitary, very organized. But a lot of times we would hit walls because we couldn't communicate the same. And they didn't know how to communicate with us creative people. But really, it was more productive when they talked in the middle and we talked in the middle and we can get things accomplished. So that's kind of how I'm using it more than just, did I get things done? Did I put them on a calendar? Did I schedule them? Was I more productive even in communicating today with somebody so we can be more productive as a unit? And that's kind of my little angle for tonight. Thank you. That's it. I'll see you later.
George, sign off. No, I mean, I bet you in the military, you probably don't. Do you have a lot of seated meetings? Or are you mostly standing, Derek, when you have your discussions with your?
No, they're mostly sitting down. But I mean,
okay, well, forget that.
My experience has been not maybe what one would think of as traditional military, not boots on the ground type stuff. I mean, I think we talked a bit about it in the past, Nick. I mean, you were government civilian in the Navy, right?
Yep. I was.
So working in the most of my work has been in the acquisition side of things, working with defense contractors and civil service, and so it's been more of a corporate field. Standard Army military. But productivity is a big deal in that context, obviously, with the multitude of meetings that can happen and inefficiencies associated therein.
You think about this, the inefficiency of communication. I mean, you talk about inefficiencies. What's Neil saying right there? When you have those meetings like that, if you're not communicating effectively, then think about how much time is wasted and how much could be.
Oh yeah, it's sickening when sometimes you look around the room and you realize, if you try to start to put dollars to to that meeting. That just the amount of time you're taking up from various people, you realize how wasteful they can be. So, one thing that I learned fairly early on was how to try and have an effective meeting. It's not always the case, but something that I'm trying to do.
I read recently, I'm reading the 15 Secrets of Time Management by Kevin Kruse, and it's a really, really good book. One of the things that I never thought about before was just you start doing case after case after case, like Steve Jobs and I think Guy Kawasaki and what's the guy from the Shark Tank, Mark Cuban or whatever. Like these guys are all like, their bogey for meetings is like you shouldn't be able to, or there's nothing that you can meet on that shouldn't require more than like 10 minutes. It's like all meetings should bogey. You should target 20 minutes and try to do it in less. Anything over 20 minutes should not be the norm. And then it goes so far to say like the most effective people out there, they might have all kinds of different meetings, but they're all like just 5 minutes. It's just like, what you think about that? Like if you limited the time that you're in a meeting and you had with a group of people, and you're going to hit the key points. Like, why are you really here? Why are we all getting together for this reason? I remember the corporate, like people would just go to meetings. There's some people that just floated from meeting to meeting because they wanted to avoid work or something. I know they had no reason to be there other than to be kept in the loop. And I think you just get so bogged down with that, that corporate vibe and having these unnecessary meetings. But if we were all disciplined about, look, we got 10 minutes to get this thing hashed out. Like, how effective would that be? Like, talk about we'd be forced to communicate, right? What do you guys think?
I think we all agree. I used to work in the government, sector. I just typed it here. And I used to work for the mayor of Orlando. So we would go to meetings that literally would go an hour just so they could end it with, well, we need to schedule another meeting tomorrow so we can discuss this. Or we would go to short meetings that I thought would be short, effective meetings. And really it was because no one got what they were supposed to do done. So the meeting was for all of us to go around a circle and say what we promised to have for the next meeting. So in my business, especially when we're working on film projects that have 30, 40, 50 people involved, everybody from actors, designers, producers, directors, I try to keep things very short and sweet to the point, because when I make the meeting short, it forces everybody to get to their point very quickly. And then I agree with what your wife wrote earlier, best meetings in the hallway. We meet on the set in between with the right person, talk right to the source. And there's just no need for us to, me to tell Nick what Willie said, just so that they can schedule a meeting to talk about it. So I think the meetings are are overused. I think people just need to learn how to talk one-on-one, go right to the source, and also get to your point. Don't waste a lot of people's times that are trying to be efficient. So,
was that something you learned, Neil, or is that something that you had to discover along the way?
Oh yeah, I learned it after 1,000 government meetings that did nothing. That literally we just wasted our day. And then it was funny is when I used to work back in the days, I used to work for AT&T in Atlanta, Georgia. Their meetings were 10 to 15 minutes, and they were severely, very focused. No room for even a personal opinion of what you did on the weekend. It was get your things on the table and get out. And it ran very efficiently, although many people felt it wasn't very personalized. At that time, the guy running our building was like, it's not about being personal, it's about being effective. And then we can be personal at lunch break. So
yeah, you're right.
I learned it along the way, different mentalities, but I just think that there's some people that you can meet quickly with, and there's other people that need to sort of be walked through steps. I've learned that the meeting isn't just about the meeting, but the type of people in the meeting.
Right. I was just thinking that, Neil. That's exactly what I was thinking.
And how do they learn and how do they process? I know, like, for example, if I talk to my wife, she likes to kind of think things out and takes a little more time to process before I get quick answers. Where I talk to my friend Willie and I don't even say good morning, and he's already telling me to skip good morning and get to my point. So it just depends on the type of
folks like that.
Meeting. Yeah.
Well, you know what I also, as you're talking, Neil, it's putting me in mind of something I do at some of our meetings, which is we have timers. We actually have, you get 4 minutes, you get 5 minutes, you get whatever. And I am getting much better at saying, hey, let's do this. I just put my mouth right out there and I say, okay, I want this to, I want this to go my way because I don't want to waste my time. And but yet you also want to be democratic. You want to have everybody be able to have their say, because I think that's important too. Because we're becoming so much more of a collaborative society, and should be, by the way. We need to be collaborative. Why are we sitting here on this blab right now, other than the fact that we're blabbing? But so everybody takes a turn, and there's a flow that you can start to think about creating in your interactions in the people you call to meet. We can start being the trendsetters that way, and probably already are. Sounds like you guys are, certainly. And I'm finding that I'm embracing that too. And I like that. I love it. Makes me feel a little more powerful in the right ways. Right.
Yeah.
So that I don't feel, because what's the point of feeling powerless about all that stuff? That just puts you in this negativity in your own space. And that makes you not be that productive.
Yeah.
In a mental kind of way, not in a list kind of way, but that's all part of the
But I
productivity.
think it also sharpens you when someone tells you that you need to sort of work within a 4-minute barrier or get to your point.
Yeah.
I think it makes you think a little sharper. You're a little bit more on point, because not only do you have to think quicker and respond quicker, but you have to be willing to retaliate quicker or take on whatever they're saying to you. You have to be able to regurgitate it quicker. And I think it just makes everybody a little snappier, no pun intended.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was intended.
So, I agree with you. I love timers. I know some people think they're rude, but it's not about.
It's an equalizer. It's an equalizer.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because I'm a person, I can talk. I love talking. I talk my day away.
Me too. But all of us on this thing are obviously blabbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would rather
blab.
talk because we all said we're going to talk versus we're trying to get something accomplished. We need to be more effective. But if we're just going to talk, I could talk all night.
Right.
So you just have to kind of, to me, that's why the word productive, sometimes to me, people use it in the wrong way, because productive to me is based on time. It's just based on did we accomplish what we wanted to accomplish.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And it's a question I ask every day, right? Like, what's the most important thing that you can do today? And I think I love what we're doing in the PYM community, because it's challenging me to think about it, even though sometimes the stuff I put out there isn't like all that, doesn't hold like a lot of weight, but like it's challenging me to think about it. Like, okay, what do I really need to do today that's important? Like, what's that thing that I know I need to do. I don't want to do it because there's a fear there or whatever, but like, it's just you got to commit to doing something.
What's funny is,
welcome
hi.
to the show here.
Well, the thing too is that the weight that it bears, the weight that it has, is based on the person who's reading it and what their need is, their urgency to change. For example, I could read your question and you say, what do you want to do today? To somebody that's like a busy ward and it's been up since 5 o'clock, they just hear, oh, what I want to do today is for you to ask me so I can get done. It's someone who logged in that day and that's the day that they want to change their life because they've been doing things differently. All of a sudden, that same question has a ton of weight, because today is my day that I wanted to change. And I just so happened to find your question, which made me change. So I really always say when I'm podcasting that the weight is based on the listener and what they're approaching your show with that day. Yeah. So if they're just a busy person that day, they're not going to take the same level of urgency that someone is there that day to change. It's almost like going to church. You can go to church every Sunday, or you can go to church that day to give your life to Christ and you want to change that day. It's a big difference between I want to go today to be saved or I want to go just to listen. And, and I don't want to use religion as an example, because that is a great example of, am I coming to just listen or am I coming to change my life today? And that determines the value of the word that day, right? Same with business and same with productivity, is like, how am I approaching productivity today? Am I here just to listen to Nick and go down a list? Or am I truly going to apply something and change my business today, like I did with some of the advice he gave me, right? Going from a list to a calendar is like, I'm going to make a change, not I'm here to listen to her tell me some changes I should make.
Right. Well, also, I thought about that too with deciding to pick this, make it snappy, as something to participate in and put some effort into. Because, I am definitely a big believer that whatever you are willing to put effort into, you will get something back somehow. And so the idea then is that I'm going to be sitting here doing this so that I can learn from Nick and learn from you, Neil, and learn from you, Nisach, that I can apply this to now whatever else I want to be doing. And that is hugely valuable. And it's also serving the purpose of engaging with other people and having it has social context. Mm-hmm. So that really amps up the productivity gain, as you're talking about. And that going back to what you were just saying, Nick, which is, what does productivity really mean? And so it's fascinating. I mean, I'm really surprised. I'm getting surprised that I'm learning something here about this, that it's, so I'm, and I think the other piece to all this is, it's like, at the moment, you have to also be disengaged from to-do lists and other things enough to say and know and trust your gut and go, this is going to matter. I don't know why yet, but it's going to matter. I'm doing it. Boom. That will change your day too. Yeah. You have to leave openings for that. At the same time, you're getting organized.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, I think for me, I'm very task oriented. I mean, they joke with me at work. I just, I get this tunnel vision, kind of the horse with the blinders, and I'm very about just task. I think the difference for me is really, I still have a tendency to do that, but it's really asking that critical question. Is like, okay, what is the most important thing that I really need to be focused on today, and why? Because I can easily get so blinded by just, getting the task done, crossing it off. I'm one of those people who put something on my list just to cross it off my list, which, doesn't serve, it doesn't really add a value in many cases. And so I start realizing I'm not spending the appropriate amount of time I should be on those critical tasks because I'm so focused on just getting through everything on this list. And it wasn't until I really decided to ask, okay, what is the most important thing? The thing that if it didn't get done, right, it could cost me my job, or would the household fall apart, or whatever it is. But so it is a shift, and that gives me some freedom to say, okay, these other things aren't that important. They can be shifted, or they can be taken off the list altogether because they really aren't necessary. But in the work environment, it's return on investment. So I'm able to say, well, this is where I spend my time, and this is why, because it does have the greatest value and return on investment for my department. And I think that's important. So if I were to get questioned by what I'm doing and why am I focused and my staff is focused on this area, it's because we ask ourselves, what is the most important task, or initiative we need to accomplish today or this week? And I work for a college of, pharmacy and admissions. And so for us, it's reviewing files, it's moving these applicants through in a timely fashion so we can let them know if they're accepted. And, we're competing with 132 other pharmacy schools, in the US. And so, when I get some of these other requests and I have to tell another dean, no, I can say, well, without students, we don't have a program, and that has to be my priority every day. And then the other things get kind of fitted in. So it's a shift, because before I would want to do everything on that list, and it's just not feasible.
I think the key thing you said was just the why. Like, what do you want to do, and then why? And it's the hardest thing to ask yourself. And out of everybody, you're the one that asks me why the most out of everything that I do in my everyday life. But and I used to hate it, and I still hate it. It cringe a little bit. But
I wonder why that is. I wonder why.
Why? Yeah, but the why is hard, right? The why makes you think. And as an engineer, I don't like to think about the why. I just like to do. I like to follow the process and get it done. So, it was a huge, just shift in mindset for me to actually answer the why. And if you can be truthful with yourself, there's the process of, like 5 whys, right? You ask why, and then it's not, you don't get down deep enough. You ask why again until you get to finally the source of it. Yeah. And I can apply that to so many different things in my life that were like, why am I working on this right now? Well, I'm working on it because I'm avoiding, the thing that I need to work on. You can go down the whole line. And I think if we just had the discipline of actually applying the why to everything that we do, we could probably just get our jobs done in about 10 hours a week, maybe. It's just, I bet you, if we could figure out how to apply that discipline consistently.
I feel a little bit like the minority here because I'm talking to 3 very task-driven people. But sometimes, sometimes in my world, it's not being productive in everyone else's eyes and doing the just because as my why and sort of letting myself drift away is what sometimes gets me in exploratory mode, and why I'm able to go be a visionary and bring that back to my editors and back to my shooters. And now the company has a direction. So I sometimes struggle with being productive, getting things done, processing people, and at the same time, sometimes having to be a visionary and having the vision for your business. It requires you to disconnect from productivity, disconnect from this, you have to go to the cloud for 3 seconds to see above the clouds. Then you come back down and you go, productivity hat. I saw above the clouds, and we're going to go left, right, left, right, left. So even when I talk to Nick sometimes and we're talking about me, and he probably go like, Neil, you're spinning in circles. A lot of times with me, it's that shift between I got to go upstairs, be a visionary for a few seconds to deliver where we're going to go, and then I got to come down here and then drive the ship and work with the team and manage this. We can reach that vision.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's not about reaching the goal or the task or the list. It's reaching the vision.
Right. But I think that's being productive. I think you know, and I remember telling Nick, like, I don't know if I like that word. Maybe you shouldn't use that word. Cause I told him, I think if you remember, I said, some people have a negative connotation, right? When they hear productivity, they're like, oh, okay, you're talking about maybe task driven, you know, to always have to, you know, accomplish something, you know, and to me, you know, you're being productive because you are strategically making a choice to focus on something that you know is adding value to your company. And, you know, and I think, you know, some people may not see that as being productive, but I do, because you can't move your company or yourself forward unless you spend that time to just be creative.
It's purpose driven, right? I mean, and Neil, you're doing it for you. That's your why. Like, you know, there's obviously a conscious recognition of what you're doing to be more creative, right? You know your why. You're like, I gotta disconnect to be more creative. Like, that's your purpose. So like, I think that's productivity in itself. Like I think you're right in this. That's what it comes to. Just your productivity comes with a little bit of a baggage with it, because people all kind of have this different perception of what productivity is. I mean, I guess if I would have thought about it, and if it would make sense, I call myself more of like an effectiveness coach versus a productivity coach, but I'm not really sure that that's even a thing. So,
well, as you're growing up, a lot of times you're told you're not being productive. You're not being productive. So you take that word as, you know, well, especially me when I was a kid, because I was being creative, not productive. So I was like, I'm being productive. You just can't hear it. You know, like, but one also big thing is I also remember my very first year, we were spinning our wheels and we were processing a lot of stuff and making a lot of videos and making a lot of big stuff, you know, for big artists and doing all this stuff. But we never moved forward with any vision. We just were productive and made a lot of things occur. And won awards and did a lot. And to everybody else, my God, you guys are so effective, so productive, so fast. But when I look now at the new Neil that's rebranding right now and meeting Nick and changing the world, then I look back and I go, man, I wasn't doing anything towards anything. I was just busy.
Yeah.
Be careful between busy and productive in the sense of, and that's what I said earlier, to me, it's just more about, are we reaching goals, moving in the right direction, and affecting change is how I equate productivity versus necessarily the pieces of it.
I think it's
you
like,
know,
I'm
sorry. Go ahead.
I'll say real quick, just like it goes back to like, it's working. Are you working in your business? Are you working on it? And there's got to be there's obviously going to be a season or a time, even every day, where you're working in your business to do the work. But then if you don't take the time to work on it and move it forward and change your processes and all the stuff that's hard and causes you to think that you don't want to do, and you just kind of push back, like all that stuff that we know that we need to do, it's the easy stuff to push away. But that's when you do that, when you push it away, you're there. You stay put, you stay exactly where you're at, and you don't move forward, and you just kind of continue the vicious cycle. We'll go ahead, Deb. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, you know, what I'm discovering that makes me feel that I am making progress. Okay, let's say it that way. Is that this concept of serving others, and not in a gratuitous kind of way, but in getting the right perspective about what really, you know, when you talk about, Neil, you were talking about how much you love to talk, and I'm very much the same way. And yet I do have very, very important specific things that have to get done. And in fact, one of the reasons I'm leaving the accounting or the tax business is because there's a lot of compliance involved, and I'm really sick of compliance. I mean, that's like my meeting. That's like your what you talk about, those horrible meetings. For me, it's like having to file a tax return on a certain day. It doesn't feel like I'm serving people, you know? And so now what floats my boat is to look at it from that lens and to say, well, if I am serving a purpose, I am serving people, therefore I'm serving a purpose, that makes me get productive. Right. But not in a way you might otherwise see. Like you were saying, you know, up here it's happening, but you can't necessarily prove it on a piece of paper. And sometimes that part of it is absolutely where you're supposed to be. And I am very excited about that part of it, because I know, and Nisach, I mean, I think also as women, We know how to sit down and write lists and do all those things. We're good at that. So I have no problem. I mean, I'm not worried about that aspect of it. I'm worried about integrating it with the things that really matter. And that's kind of what you were talking about, Nick. It's like the part of the day that has to be this, the part of the day that has to be that. And now we're back to routines and rituals that or ways of planning your day and carving out the time so that all those things can happen.
Yeah, good for you for acknowledging, because I always tell people, until you can acknowledge what it is you don't like, you're not going to change anything or affect any type of productivity. Like you said, I don't like this process. I don't like compliance. So now you're going to be free. But like when I used to work in government, they used to ask me every day, but you have to be able to measure how many hours will it take you to animate this? How long is an explosion? What does it cost the city to do da-da-da? And I would spend half my meeting going, you'll never be able to quantify this.
I know. And that's what I do in accounting all day long. And what I came to realize is, in my specific kind of business, I came to realize that unless I had buy-in and I got to know these people and I got to talk to them and I listened once in a while, which I'm also not so good at, but I'm getting better, then I would never be able to actually be effective that way. So, I mean, and that was driving me crazy. I couldn't get people to get their records to me in an organized enough fashion. Now, maybe if I had all women like Unisatch and me, that'd be a different matter, but I didn't, and I never will. There's a lot of different personalities out there. Like we were talking about that earlier, getting people to the meetings and recognizing those personalities, very important, because then you can start driving and figuring out if you got a meeting, a group full of people, all who are going to blab to death, then that's when the timer comes out, or you just, you figure out which people you're going to be ever willing to meet with. And then other people, you're only going to do it by email. Other people, you're only going to do it on the phone because you only need a quick sec. Other people, you're going to meet them in the hallway, and so you figure these things out and you do it automatically. But that's the fun part of all this, that's the part I get really jazzed up about. So we're going to get there. We're getting there.
Yeah, I want to ask you something, like the quantify thing, because I struggle with this, right? I'm an engineer, I'm a process guy, Lean Six Sigma, whatever. I kind of like, my whole shtick is like, you can make decisions with data, like it's the thing. So how do you like capture the creative process? I gotta ask you though, like when you're doing that sort of thing, certainly there's got to be a way where you can just know what it is you worked on, right? And take a look back, like being honest with yourself. Okay, well, I worked on this explosion thing or this different effect, and like on average, it typically takes like not even just like for different like certain effects or whatever, but just on average, when you're working on certain types of projects where they have like a certain feel to them or whatever, you can probably say like, okay, this is probably a 3-week project, or right? I mean, there's got to be some level of that, right, Neil?
It's not that, yes, there are levels, but the problem with anything creative is like asking a musician, how long will it take you to engineer this record?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's how we work on feeling. So if I feel great and I'm into the mode and I'm in the zone, I'm going to mix this record in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
If I'm dealing with your manager and I got you in here annoying me and I'm not in a good mood and I'm not flowing, since we work off creative flow, that same mix could take me 3 days. Because I just did a video where I almost called the client and said, I'm going to hire someone to finish your video. I just can't get my arms around your video. You'd be like, why? You shot it. You were the one who created it. And I came every day. I sat down to edit, and I literally couldn't have an idea. Literally, like. But then I'd go work on anything else and be like, and so how do I measure to her that I just blew 4 days of her time waiting on her video, literally because I just couldn't wrap my creative arms around her project. I lost the heart for it because we work off emotion versus Neil, sit down, you have 8 hours to edit, and by the 8th hour, you better process this percentage of that video. So the answer to you is the same answer I would give people at City Hall was, yes, there are generics. There's an explosion should take an hour, or I could do flying text in 5 minutes. But the reality is, what if I want to add a little shimmer on that text? That takes me another hour. If I wanted to just glow a little more, that's 30 more minutes. And so now it's hard to quantify. What if I want to glow and shimmer? So
you're already glowing and shimmer, buddy. I mean, that's
so a lot of times, even with music, when I record musical people, and I'll be like, yeah, that sounds great. Are you doing my mix? I'm like, well, yeah, but if I add this, or if I want to add this, or I want to add a little bass, every time you make a change of a color, I got to re-render it for an hour. So now the client's affecting my time. How do I measure that? So You know, we work in generalities, and normally in our world, we bill by the project instead of the hour, because if I bill by the hour, I'd be rich. Because they could just take me forever to do stuff, right? And if I have a slow Mac, it'll take even longer and I can get paid more. So I'd want to have a crappy computer. But yeah, it was funny because when you're asking the question, I kind of see you positioning, and it reminded me of my old boss. She would always do the same thing, but there's got to be a way you can kind of tell me.
I don't want to be your old boss, but
No, not in a bad way. But she would just try to understand it and quantify it in a business mode, which I understand. That's her job. She has to go to that meeting upstairs and justify my 8 hours every day. I get it. When they hear
that's true.
They think she's doing this, you know.
Well, welcome, Richard, Mike, and Angel for joining. We're going to wrap up here pretty soon. But the other thing that just sparked to mind, I kind of wanted to make a comment about is just like the overall just energy level, right? Because you talked about being in the flow, and not really knowing, like, you may be in the flow or you may not, but like, how do you then set yourself up to have a higher probability or higher likelihood that you'll be in that flow based on just different life habits, right? Sleep, eating right, exercise, that kind of stuff. That's just kind of what came to mind when you were saying that.
Yeah.
How do you find the flow? And welcome, Roy, for coming on in.
Hey, everybody. It's funny. I guess, I would probably never have the right or I should say the accepted answer for these questions. But what I can say is this, like, normally if I work on something, yes, the next day I may have no want to do it, no different than Ash might get there and not want to process this pharmaceutical thing today because she's having a tough day. Like, we will still get the project done, right? I'm still going to put my heart and my best into it. And if I'm not in the mood of this, maybe I'll work on text or music or something else. Like, we ebb and flow to try to continue the flow as well, because we want to be effective and get it out of the door. So I don't have to struggle for a week. I just want to struggle for a day. But anything that's not numerical, that is based on emotion and feeling, will 100% certainly be affected literally by how you approach it creatively each day. I mean, there's days I want to edit and I'm so passionate and I can't wait to do your music, Nick, because I want you to be so impressed. And there's days I just can't do it no matter how much I play it back. And so, you have to combat that by trying to do other things, work on other stuff, and still be within a realistic window for your client. And that comes, I think, in building the expectation up front that we do ebb and flow. That's why I told you earlier about setting the difference between I'll turn your wedding in a week or in 3 weeks. The reason you have to wait a month for a wedding is exactly that. They start cutting your wedding, they lose the flow, and they don't come back to it for a week.
That makes
so it's tough. It's tough. It's just like painting a mural. Do you know you're going to be 100% at your best to paint that mural every day? Probably not. Well, not as measurable, but hey, it's a different level of productivity, and that's why we're here, right?
It's really interesting.
Try to put the reins on it a little bit.
So to kind of wrap this Blab up, the first Productivity Killers Blab ever. Thanks everybody for joining. Maybe we'll just stop or just wrap it up with opening up the floor to saying, like, what's the thing that we sort of fear? Because the topic was supposed to be fear this week. What's the thing that we fear that we're going to try to work on for the upcoming week? Does anybody want to start? They got some folks that just joined, Richard and Mike and Roy, and please chime in, Deb, whoever's still on. Anybody want to start?
Are you asking us, or are you just asking the people?
I'm asking everybody. I'm asking everybody's on.
I wasn't sure if you're asking just the people who joined.
I already talked. I guess I'll do it quickly so we can end it. My fear.
I fear ending this.
I don't know if it's too much of fear, but it's definitely putting a fire under myself to do a lot more selling and working on doubling the income and I talked about this on your other show, solidifying and making things more balanced and more reliable. So to me, my fear is that if I don't get out there and do more networking, like today, why I was late today was connecting and I left there with a job. Yeah. So the fear is to, I got to break the fear of getting comfortable and not selling and hoping, people will call me. You have to get out there and hustle. Yeah. So that's what I'm working on daily to try to I want to double the income, and I told you 30% more business as fast as I can.
Yeah, for sure. And I can't, by the way, everybody's tuning in to Make a Snappy Productivity Show. Neil's going to be my guest the week after next. So I can't wait for that episode.
People are vulnerable and very embarrassed.
That's the part of the show, man. You got to get on there and put stuff out there. It's kind of like we're doing right here. Anybody want to go next?
Thanks. It's been fun, man. Thanks for having us on. What about you? What are you afraid of?
So I can go next. I work I'm a director of admissions, and so I'm nowhere near creative like you are, Neil. I mean, it's pretty straightforward what I do. But my big thing is I'm going to go on maternity leave. I got 12 weeks from today before I'm gone for 16 weeks. And so, I think my fear is probably, it won't be the first time. This is our third, but, I have entirely new staff this time around. And so for me, it's making sure, the fear is that, things won't get done when they need to get done. And I'll come back, 16 weeks later and, to what situation. And so for me, it's really, letting go and trusting that they are, competent enough to get it done, and really then holding myself accountable to making sure the operations manual is up to date, which is the boring task to have to sit there and type out how we do specific tasks, in our office, but it has to get done so I can set them up to be successful while I'm out. And so, the fear is just kind of letting that go, and trusting that they are capable of really managing the office in my absence. And that when I come back, I'll just, step in as if I hadn't left, which is what happened in a previous time. So I'm less fearful, but I think it's a natural fear to have when you are, responsible for an office and staff, to make sure that things flow as if you were actually still there. And so for me, it's just in the next few weeks, just releasing some of that and making sure they also feel very comfortable to be able to take on that responsibility.
Yeah, especially if they still blame you even when you were gone. They'll still blame you when you get back.
I know. Yeah, exactly. It was all her fault.
Welcome.
Nick's not afraid of anything, man. That guy's fearless up there, man.
Oh, come now. Angel says Angel wants to share here. And welcome, Patty. Oh, here she comes.
Look at you trying to shut down, and you just got 10 more people. Awesome. leave them energized and wanting more for next week.
That's right. We got to figure out. We got to probably all decide a topic next week. Hi, Angel. How you doing? Thanks for joining. I had a little trouble hearing you. I don't think the mic is on. Can anybody else hear?
How's that?
Oh, yep.
Oh,
there it is.
Here I was thinking it was just, I don't know. I was fooling around with it earlier. So actually, I don't like too much to focus on fears, because I find that when I think more about a fear, I get more of what I'm actually afraid of. But I have to admit, I'm actually trying to overcome something this week, because I've done a lot of, I have a show and I've built a big audience, and my venture and my mission is kind of taking me to this other platform. And this week I decided that it was time to start putting myself on Twitch TV. Oh. And what I was faced with was, I don't know why it was unexpected to me, because I should have expected it, because I've been in technology and I've been a female gamer and technologist for so many years that I've dealt with being the woman in the industry before. But I didn't expect quite what I walked into. People on the chat, it was just people, the trolls, right? You get used to that kind of thing on the internet, but it was the silly things that were being said. I was a tranny, and then they were getting on Twitch TV because I'm in GTA 5, so they can see me in a video game online, and then they can go and see me on the internet. And so I kind of feel like I'm a female breaking into a new place, almost maybe the first female officers, or the first I don't know. It's kind of making me a little bit fearful.
Got it.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Now I got to look for you in the game.
Twitch.tv/Angel Hill TV to see me when I'm live on Twitch. And if you want to add me on GTA, if you guys want to, I'm totally Angel AHTV. That's who I am on GTA 5. But yeah, so it's just interesting, because I'm not a fearful person. I'm let's go. Let's try whatever's new, and let's, within reason, because I'm logical and intelligent, right? But this, I guess I just didn't expect that. And the first broadcast, I pulled it down, because they're recordings that you can go back and watch again. And I pulled it down, and then I went, I don't know if I should have done that. Maybe I should have just
let it be.
Yeah, part of the process, so now it's approaching the next one, and just seeing how that goes. It's interesting. It's definitely,
and that might not even be necessarily, I used to work in the homicide unit way back in my early video days. And I heard one time from a detective, he said, sometimes what you're equating to fear is not fear at all, but just hesitancy, and you being almost like you're sensing what might be a challenge, so your body's responding to it, and you're not really afraid. You're just feeling the symptoms of fear. Yeah. And so a lot of times being fearless is about ignoring those symptoms and just doing what you're going to do and making everybody respect you. So
and doing that breathing thing.
Yeah, I learned that because even when I used to walk into the homicide scenes, I'd be afraid of what I'm about to see, right? They'll give me this horrendous image and I got to go videotape it. And I would walk in and I would tell myself, these are actors. This is not real. I'm not afraid. This is not real. And so that was probably one of the best advice that they told me was most of the time when you think it's fear, it may not be fear. It's just your body expecting something that you may not like, but it's not.
I can relate to that because once I was really physically attacked and I went through a period of fear when I just trying to leave the house. And then later I had a friend who suffered homicide and another one who suffered homicide and another one that's still missing. And it all happened within a short period it's all like within a really short time period. And I would actually experience some of that stuff. And it was just like, it's hard to leave the house all of a sudden. Like, what the hell? I just wanted to take a city bus, but it had, and I wasn't really afraid. It was just it's almost like self-defense. Once your brain starts rationalizing that stuff, it goes to point B, right? And it's interesting because sometimes the reason I mention this right now in business is because I think that if you can generalize this idea, because it's so clear when we can think of murder, fear, perspective, and we can put that. Well, if we can take that and measure it to what we do in business, this is very much affecting my monetization of myself on the internet. Yeah. Because when I realize situations like this that might be more fearful and that instinct, like what Neil was just talking about, did I say that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. What Neil was just talking about, when that instinct starts to kick in, most people will just back away from that and stop. Yes. And that's what I've chosen not to do, right? And that's why I was willing to come up and talk about it, because I want to go to that next point of just moving past it and doing it anyways. I think it's important.
Oh, you hit a hot button with me there, Angel, because it's talking about it, right? Because we make it public. For me, even if nobody even cares what I commit to and make public, it's for me, it's just I do it.
It's solid. It's concrete.
I gotta do it. I don't want anybody to call me out. So that's a huge, I think, for me, factor of overcoming your fears. So
there's that famous quote that everything you want is on the other side of fear, and the first thing is to identify what you're afraid of, and then you know that on the other side of that, it's exactly what you're trying to achieve. So
the odds are you're not alone, right? You're just the first one who's actually decided to ignore the fear and say, I'm going to put it out there.
Yeah. Eleanor Roosevelt has so many great quotes on that. If you guys just want to plug Eleanor Roosevelt and fear into Google, you'll be like, holy shit, that woman really, she pegs it. Like, she really pegs it. That's great. But yeah, thank you so much for letting me share it, guys. It's been absolutely awesome. I love what you're doing here for Blab. I don't know your first name. Make it snappy.
Oh, it's Nick. My name is Nick Snap. Yeah, I have a podcast, Make It Snappy Productivity Show. Just launched it on Christmas. So, check it out on makeitsnappyshow.com if you want.
Cool. Yeah.
It's all about.
Thanks for jumping in. I mean, it takes a lot. I've been on Blab since the first day it came out, and a lot of people are on the sidelines that they're listening, they're chatting, but I really believe the power of Blab is being able to get on like you did, because now you just made 4 friends. I just followed you.
Thank you.
And I think that it's the power of the collaborative, right? And fear is always eliminated when you shine light on stuff. And when you have other people that believe in you and tell you, hey, move forward, do it anyway, regardless, you eliminate that fear immediately. It's a lot of times our fear is our own self-doubt. And so you just got to just do what you're doing. You're obviously very confident at what you do. So just break the doors down and make them wonder what happened. Let them sit there and analyze your move, not you analyze what made you afraid. So just do what you're going to do and let them figure out how you pulled it off, because that's what I do.
Well, I was pretty proud of myself when they were doing that on the show, because I just, what I needed to ignore, I ignored, and I just played and laughed, and it just didn't affect me. But inside, that's not exactly how I felt. Yeah. Inside, I was like, holy shit, like these people are really being hard on me. I don't know if I can handle this, like, whoa.
Well, they say, fake it till you actually believe it, right? Do you feel it? Sometimes that's what we have to do. You just have to kind of, put that persona on, and, and eventually it's no longer something you put on. It's just, eventually who you are, you just become that confident.
Well, I think I overcame it really well, because I eventually was in the chat, and when there was some friendly energy and we were like, they got really, really, really busy, somebody said something and I said, well, guys, I'm a female, so I don't have balls, but I assure you, if I did, they'd be bigger than all of yours. And everybody in the chat was just like, that was pretty good. So I went from trainee to the cool girl, but it was that process, right?
Yeah, I really believe you just got to do things and let everybody wonder. Just just do that.
Well, I guess I didn't go. Maybe I just go before we wrap this up. So my biggest, there's a couple things I'm just kind of thinking about as we're talking. I mean, I still have a fear of sailing. Excuse me, a fear of sailing, a fear of sales. Just going out and selling. So I'm a coach and selling my service and that kind of stuff. So actually, I've had a lot of initial consultations where like I just kind of leave it open. And it's like that open loop. So it's like it's in the back of my mind. If I don't close the loop and say, hey, do you want to work with me or not? Like then if not, that's cool. But it's like there's, for whatever reason, there's a fear there. So there's a couple potential clients that I need to kind of close the loop on and say, let's just kill this thing. That's like one fear. The other fear, I haven't really like, I can't articulate exactly what it is, but I know I see myself going on this path where I got all this new stuff going on, right? I got this new weekly Blab, one example, which I love. I'm going to keep doing this, but there's like a daily Periscope that I'm doing. There's the social media. There's a podcast I'm doing every week now, and I'm blogging, and there's like all this stuff. And then I have a retainer client where I'm doing engineering consulting. So it's like my calendar is just like chock full. So my fear is like letting go. Like, do I need to let something go? I have a fear of the potential for that I might have to let something go, and then what's the outcome going to be? Because like everything's so new, I'm a new entrepreneur, whatever. So that's something that's out there. I can't exactly tell you what it is I need to let go because it's not clear to me yet. I'm still kind of testing all these different things out. But that's one thing for sure. But I think that the real fear is like, okay, I got to call a couple of these clients and say, hey, look, you want to work with me or not? So that's mine.
Well, if I could add something to what you just said, Nick, because I've known you, I've worked with you now. You're good enough before you did all those things. And one thing I told you about, well, when we were with the podcast meeting, I always said, you have to be you were good enough before you tried Periscope. You were good enough before you added Blab. You were good enough before you did all these things. What you're doing is you're trying to create new ways to people to interact with you being the good that you are. So one failing, one not working. I always tell people, work each social media until it gives you the outcome that you want, level of engagement that you want. And if they don't, delete it and stick with the one that's getting you the engagement.
Yeah.
You as a coach are good enough without all of them.
Thanks, man.
It's the fact that people just haven't found you yet. So I wouldn't worry about which one you're going to drop or which one is going to stay. Just keep being a badass coach, and people will find you like she just found you, Angel did, on this medium. And either she's going to value that like I'm valuing it, or we're going to move on and look for someone that she can value, right? Yeah. Same with you, Angel. People are going to find you. They're either going to value what you're doing or they're not. And it's irrelevant. You're just as good. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Just be confident in every platform that you use, and know that whether that platform existed or not, wouldn't you still be the best at what you're doing?
Yeah.
You're just giving more windows for me to see into your boat. That's how I look at it. So, dude, you're doing amazing. So just keep doing it, but also look at which one is getting you the engagement. If Periscope is not delivering, but Blab is getting you, 43 people, then Blab is the one you double now.
Right.
And I would suggest that just what I did. I got rid of some Instagrams when and Angel, to your point, when I'm 43 in May, when I used to DJ, I used to manage one of the biggest DJs in Orlando, and I was told a million times I don't look like a DJ. I don't DJ this, I don't DJ that, but I made money DJing. Then I did photography. You don't look like a photographer. You don't look like a videographer, and I made money in all of those. And then I did speaking. You don't look like a speaker. So my point is, it's their job to always tell you what you can't do. And it's just their fear of doing it, and they're jealous that you're doing it.
And I have boobs, and they don't.
Exactly. So you just got to do it. And Nick, on your end, dude, you're already doing it. The reason I'm sitting here at 10:25 at night after a long meeting that I was just at with you, and I just did a coaching session with you, is because you're good, man. So kudos, man. Don't doubt it. Just keep on pushing forward, bro. This is an awesome platform.
And Nick, that talks about platforms and what to choose. And to address the other fear that you have, if you're interested, if you're a coach, I love partaking in other people's coaching. I think it's valuable no matter what coach I partake in. And I'm a sales coach. So if you want to trade some services for an hour and maybe do an appear in, I could probably help you before you approach those clients.
Nice.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Bam. Yeah. Blab just paid itself off.
Okay.
I've done a lot of sales coaching. I've done a lot of sales over my career too. I had a successful computer store here in Barrie for 10 years. And I also did, I've even gone as far as doing door-to-door Kirby sales. I've been an MLM person for probably Well, definitely 10 MLM businesses. I really haven't counted them all, but it's at least 10. Last Christmas, my MLM was grossing me at least $500 a week personal income. So I've had a lot of success in sales. And I can assure you that if you're languaging it to yourself that you have anything to do with sales, you're not going to get anywhere because it's not really a selling process. So let's talk, because truly, if you feel any resistance, there's a good chance it's a lot easier than you think it is. Mm-hmm. And it's just little tiny key things that are missing, and you'll see that the process is probably a lot easier than it is easier than it feels like at the moment.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks. I guess Twitter maybe.
Yeah, that'd be the best way to get a hold of me. Yeah, right. And then we'll do an appear in. If you want, we can do something tomorrow.
Okay. Well, yeah. Let me look at. It's a pretty busy. A big presentation on Saturday, so I'm kind of chock full. But maybe next
whenever you can is good. It's for you. So whenever you would like my time, it's of value to me. I'm probably going to plug your brain for whatever you do coaching wise, because like I said, I really find value in the coaches that I meet. I think it's amazing.
Nice.
I really appreciate that. Okay, so
hi, Deborah.
Hi, Angel. I just wanted to say you're great, and Neil, you're great, and Nick, I already knew you were great. So I'm going to sign off because I got to go to bed. Actually, I got to watch one episode of Shameless, which is pretty shameless of me, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Enjoy. I'm going to watch Lost, which makes me kind of lost. So I hear you. Enjoy.
Well, I wrote down your information, Angel, so I'm going to look you up.
So. Awesome.
And Neil,
awesome. And I'll talk to you guys on Twitter anytime, anybody.
Okay, it's great. Talk to you all.
Bye, guys.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good job, brother.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.